Hello, my name is Christine Kramer, and I work for California Casualty, an exclusive member-only auto and home insurance provider. If this is the first time you've heard of California Casualty, rest assured, as we do not advertise on TV and we're not available to the general public. Our family-owned company has been in business since 1914. We appreciate your time and interest to learn more about the basics of auto and home insurance through this video brought to you by your association and California Casualty. Today, you're going to learn how auto liability coverage works and what to consider when selecting coverage limits. Liability is thought to be the most important part of an auto policy because it protects you from financial loss for injuries or damage you cause to another person and their property. It's tempting to carry lower limits on your auto policy to save on premium, but that could leave you open to paying the difference between the lower limits and the cost of damages out of your own pocket. Liability coverage has two parts: bodily injury and property damage. Bodily injury liability becomes active when you or your family members cause an accident that injures another person. Bodily injury will pay the injured person's medical bills, pain and suffering, lost wages, and legal costs. Bodily injury liability not only protects the people in the car you hit, but passengers in your vehicle who are not part of your immediate household. For example, your cousins visiting from out of town would be covered, a commute buddy, or even kids you towed around for soccer games. But your teenage son who lives with you would not be covered. Bodily injury liability coverage has a split limit. The first number represents the payout per person. The second number represents the payout for all injured parties for the entire accident. To illustrate, we'll use limits of $25,000 per person and $50,000 per accident. If you have an accident and the payout of medical bills, lost wages, legal costs, and pain and suffering totals $50,000, you have enough coverage. But what happens if the cost of injuries exceeds $50,000? You guessed it, it becomes your personal responsibility to pay the difference. This could potentially put your home, your personal savings account, and other assets in jeopardy. This is why having the right amount of coverage is vital. Now let's shift gears and talk about property damage liability. This coverage becomes active when you or your family member causes damage to someone else's property. That can include a vehicle, fence, signal light, and even a building. Property damage liability coverage pays to repair or replace property. So how can you determine what bodily injury liability and property damage liability coverage limits are right for you? Many insurance experts recommend carrying 2 times the value of your assets for bodily injury, and for an extra layer of protection, the purchase of an umbrella policy. For property damage liability, experts recommended limits based on the types of cars in your community and the cost to replace them. Also, consider the cost to replace street signs and fences. If you have little in the way of assets, then consider future wages, as those can be garnished to pay this debt. No matter what state you live in, liability coverage is important to protect your financial well-being. Thank you for joining me for the basics of bodily injury and property damage liability. Join me next time when I'll be talking about how to protect yourself against uninsured and underinsured drivers.